everyone. Welcome to Fitz in Law School. I am Fitz, and it's another day, another week, and another episode. Today, we're going to be talking about choosing which law school. All right, you're done with the LSAT, you're done with the applications, and finally, decisions are starting to roll in. So first of all, number one, congratulations for getting into law schools. Congratulations for completing the initial process. It is not a hard thing to do. So, good work. All right, it's pretty fantastic, and now you have all these opportunities. Okay, so the first thing to get out of the way is the obvious things, which are perhaps some disappointment. Okay, so there is a strong possibility that maybe you didn't get into the schools that you wanted to get into. Maybe the information that's coming in is a little disappointing. Maybe you did get into the school you got into, but you're getting no scholarship money. All those kinds of things. All right, these are disappointments that you're going to have to deal with. All right, it's true, it's fine. The vast majority of people don't go to the school that they want to go to. Most people want to go to a T14 school. Most people want to go to Harvard or Stanford or Berkeley. These schools are fantastic, but they are selective. So it's hard to get in. And if you don't get in, that doesn't mean that you're not good enough. That doesn't mean you're not smart. That doesn't mean anything. All that means is that you didn't get in. So fine. You got to move forward. All right, so this is a hard process, and you did it, and now you have all these options. Okay, and then there's also some good stuff about going to perhaps some schools that are slightly lower in the rankings. The first thing is that you have the opportunity to get the best grades that you possibly can anywhere that you go. Okay, so going to a T14 school and graduating from T14 school is the same thing. It will be the same thing as graduating in the top 5 or 10% of your class. Okay? Employees will still look at that and they will say, all right, we are looking at this person. We need someone to do hard work. We need someone to demonstrate that they can do hard work. One thing that a T14 school has going for it is that it's such hard work to get into there in the first place that a lot of times, firms don't really need to look too far past that kind of a thing. And so it's been demonstrated that you can do hard work. And so it's not a shoe-in to some of the bigger law firms, but they just don't have to look as hard. You will have to work harder, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get, fantastic jobs just because you didn't go to a T14 school. And a lot of firms and stuff also like to have the name of, Harvard Law. We have this many Harvard Law graduates at our firm. That's just kind of the nature of the business, okay? But that has absolutely no bearing on whether or not you will get a job, okay? The second thing is drive, which I was kind of talking about. Your drive, my dad always used to say a mover and a shaker, a hustler, someone who takes the situation that they're in and then makes the best situation out of it, okay? Go and talk to people, go and find the angle. Every single thing that you have to do in life usually is behind someone who has to say yes or no. That's a lot of times that's really what stands in your way. And so if you find the right person, say the right words, and convince them that you deserve a shot, then you can do this, okay? So I have confidence in you. You can do it. And then the last thing with, perhaps not getting into the best school is you can try to transfer. You can as well, There's a very high likelihood that you got fantastic grades in your undergrad, and then you didn't do so hot on the LSAT, okay? So because the LSAT does matter a lot in this admissions process, they put a lot of weight into it. However, if after your first semester, so essentially you're starting in the fall somewhere, and then once spring rolls around, you are essentially starting the transfer process. That's when you would start the transfer process, the spring of your first year, okay? So actually, no, it's the end of your first semester. So you would start the end of your first semester, start the no, it's not. I'm not exactly sure, but essentially what it is you would just start applying again, okay? And so you would apply again to these schools that you are going and working towards transferring to. I assume it would actually be the fall because it's just the transfer, or it's just the application process all over again. And so you would go and initiate your transfer to the school, and because you're coming from a law school already, they'll be looking more towards your grades than to your LSAT score. So that means that you have the opportunity to really demonstrate what you can do in law school. And saying, all right, look, I understand that my law school or my LSAT score wasn't great, but here's what I can do in law school. And also, basically, throughout all of law school, every single law school, the first year is basically the same. Nearly all law students take the exact same courses. They take crim law, they take torts, they take contracts, they take civil procedure, and one other course. And it's all the same. And so because of that, it's just kind of a clear demonstration. It's easily transferable. Okay, so that means that schools can look at that and say, okay, you know what, they got straight A's their first year, they're probably going to do just fine. Okay, and so that also doesn't really drag down the school averages for their LSAT score as well. I mean, again, there's the idealistic side and there's the business side, and so a lot of times you do definitely have to look at both. And so on the business side, you can say, all right, they sometimes don't count transfer students in terms of their LSAT score median. They don't count the GPA of the person coming in as a transfer student to affect like their median GPA of incoming students, so they can keep that high bar. Something to think about. Okay, you don't have to do it. I personally think that if you use the transfer to like be a good motivator to do best in school, I mean, more power to you. Anything that it takes for you to get the most best grades that you can. The second thing is fine. You're not disappointed or fine. You're just saying, all right, I'm still happy. I'm going to go to law school. So pumped. I would say that in order to pick the right school, you need to look at the opportunities of that school. Okay, I kind of mentioned this a little bit in the last episode, talking about your admissions essay. Well, your admissions essay should come after your research on the school. So you should know a little bit about the school, but now it's time to look more and more in depth and say, oh my gosh, I actually have a realistic opportunity to go there. So I need to really, really look at this stuff in depth. You don't need to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your career. You don't need to figure out what type of law you want to go into. You're going to learn so much in law school that those preferences will change. Okay, I like, if it strikes you that, oh my gosh, Fitz, you know exactly what you want to do in law school. I'm the weird one. Okay, I'm the freak. I'm the person who was hit by lightning and said, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I want to do when I was 11 years old. Okay, so don't look at me and say I should have that kind of passion. All right, this is a learning process. Okay, so don't worry. All right, it will come. The more that you learn, the more that you say, okay, you know what? This is a really, really interesting side of law. I'm finding torts especially interesting. However, that does go into the kind of privacy law that I want to do. So there you go. But I would highly suggest that you look at three things. You look at the intangible four things. So the intangible facets of the school, the tangible facets of the school, the industry surrounding the school, and then the law firm presence that's there. Okay, so let's start with the intangibles. The intangibles are, what's the culture? What's the vibe? Is it a cool city? Do you want to be landlocked? Do you want to be on the ocean? Do you want to be near, some kind of tech hub or whatever? Do you want to be in the middle of nowhere? Do you want to be able to focus on your studies? Do you want to have a big city near you? These are all things that I guess are in a way tangible, but also the way that you enjoy them is intangible. So look at the concentrations of the school. Look at what usually people, their top 5 clinics. What are they really known for at that school? And then just kind of take a stab at a general area of law that you find rather interesting. Do you want to work in the private sector? Do you want to work in the public sector? Do you want to be a prosecutor? Do you want to be a litigator? Do you want to just work behind the scenes? Do you want to just advise corporate clients? These are all things that you should definitely consider, and then you should look and see, all right, what happens when someone goes to that school? And also think about, the coasts, and think about near a city, and, usually most of the time, the coastal schools are just a little bit more filled with opportunity because it's California and New York, and I would say probably DC. Those are the three big places for lawyers. So I would just kind of narrow your search just a little bit on that. So I guess that's tangibles and intangibles. And then the industry that's surrounding them. Okay, so the industry would be, I mean, do you want to work in tech? Then obviously you need to think about San Francisco. Do you want to work in the public sector? Then you need to think about DC. Do you want to work in the corporate or private sector in general, or the finance sector in general? You got to look at New York. These are things that would just I thought going into law school, I figured that this wouldn't be the case anymore, but apparently it still is, because the law firm is a slow moving, old school kind of a profession. Okay, they have traditions. They have very distinct ways of doing things that haven't really. It's not that they haven't caught up with the 21st century. They're actively choosing to have some things be old school, be kind of traditional. And that's their prerogative, and that's how they want to do things. Most law firms are still kind of pretty old-fashioned. Most law firms do a lot of things on paper. I mean, most law firms say, no. You wear a suit, you do this. We're not a tech company, and so it's just they're just kind of an old-fashioned thing. And so because of that, they stick to this old-fashioned tradition of. Oh, this light's crazy. They stick to this old-fashioned tradition of kind of being a little bit more local or a little bit more state focused rather than we're looking at the entire country. The biggest law firms, obviously, they do have firms all around the world, and they have firms all over the country, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. But most firms and most people who are graduating law school are not going to go and work at the big firms. It's just like working at the big tech company. Most people don't do it. It's just like going to the best law school. Most people don't do that. And so you just need to kind of keep that in mind. But look at the industry that surrounds that law school, and that usually is kind of a feeder into those industries. They look at the local law schools first, and then from there they slowly have concentric circles of more and more searching as they get around, or as they get outside of their geographical area. So I definitely advise you to look at that. And last but not least is the firm. So you also definitely want to increase your chances by looking at how many firms are in the area, and if you have a particular firm that you're interested in, do they have an office near that law school? If they do, that means they're probably going to come to job fairs. That means that you will be able to reach out to them and say, hi, I'm a law student at X school, and I'm really, really interested in your firm, and this work was really, really fantastic. I would love to come in and talk to you sometime, or just keep me in mind, or whatever, But it always works if you're closer. So there you go. And then number 3 is money. Okay, so unfortunately, like with the LSAT and like with the admissions process, money is something that you need to worry about. Okay, because law school is very expensive. Most people don't have parents or a trust fund or whatever that they're paying for. And so because of that, money has to be a factor. And so I think that looking at the opportunity at the school and then the money, opportunities in the actual school itself has got to be 80%, but the money has got to be 20%. It's not something that you can really ignore. And what I mean by money is with the offers that you're getting, usually also you'll have scholarship opportunities that come with that. So that means that they say, congratulations, you're part of our school, and we're willing to, pay 25% of your tuition. We're willing to pay 50%. We're willing to pay 0. We're willing to pay 100%. These are things that you definitely need to keep in mind. I would say most schools probably cost about $40,000 to $50,000 per year. Okay, so that's tuition. That's it. And then you have books. Then you have food. Then you have housing. So that's like another 10 or 20K per year. This is not a cheap undertaking, okay? This is also why you need to think about it, because it's expensive, and you don't want to go, $180,000 or $200,000 in debt and realize, oh wait, I don't really like doing this, So you definitely have to consider it. But when I was working at Google, one of the lawyers just gave me a really nice little snippet of advice, and I've always kind of thought about this, and it's go to a T14 school, and if not, go to the one that gives you the most money. I think it's pretty damn good advice. I think that going to a T14 is a exceptional opportunity, and if you are smart about your finances and you go and get hired at a big law firm, then you'll get, a nice paycheck, and then you'll be able to live frugally for about 5 years and pay off your debts. Okay? If you don't get into a T14 school, then you go to the one that gives you the most money, the one that will knock out that debt as best as they can, because it is just very expensive. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And lastly is that you can negotiate your financial aid package, okay? I've always done it. I did it at undergrad. I've done it at my law school. I've done it everywhere, okay? You can go to them and say, hi, this is fantastic, really interested in your law school. Are there any other scholarship opportunities, or is there anything else that I might qualify for? Please let me know. Or go to them and say, hi, and make sure that you look up the law schools that you're comparing, but say, hi, I am really, really passionate about your law school because of X reason. Make sure you have that reason. However, I've also gotten accepted at this school, and they've given me this amount of money. Is there any way that you can increase it? Is there any way that you can help my decision? Is there any way, I really, really want to do that. However, law school is very expensive. Is there something you can do for me? Just ask. A lot of times if you ask, they help you out. It's pretty fantastic. But yeah, so that is, that's that. So just a couple things to think about. Make sure you, congratulations. I know it might be disappointing, but you got to move forward. Make sure to look at all the opportunities of law school, and then make sure to pay attention about money. All right? Next week, we're going to talk about, you've chosen a law school, so now prep for law school. And I'm thinking probably like the first month and then the week before. But yeah, all right. See you guys next week. So you can see